So I'm starting to run out of good four-cylinder motors. I'm getting tired of pulling them out of cars that are still running and driving cars that aren't even built yet to put into other cars to build for other shows. But what we have here is a four-cylinder Toyota Camry motor. The motor mount tells me this is the motor I took to the USA, but I don't think this is the motor mount I took to the motor I took to the USA. It sat there for quite some time. To be honest, I'm not 100% sure where I ran this motor. But that's not important, really. What is important is what the oil looks like. I was going to put this motor into a car, and then I looked at the oil. That's right. There is a lot of water in this oil. I kept the motor probably because it was a good motor. I didn't know that the head gasket was gone. I can't even get the dipstick back in. But it turns out the head gasket's gone. So what I'm going to attempt to do right now is I'm going to attempt to take this head off this motor. I've actually never torn down a Toyota motor with the intentions of actually putting it back together. So this is going to be something new for me. I think the transmission's good because usually when stuff is bad, I spray paint it yellow. But this does not have spray painted yellow on it, so I imagine that this transmission is good. Yeah, I don't even know what this motor's out of. It's got blue on it. So, I'm kind of thinking this is maybe the motor I took to Dresden in 2019. But I'm honestly not that sure. If this is the motor I took to Dresden in 2019, that transmission is not good, because it lost first gear. But I'm pretty sure I had like a huge transmission cooler in Dresden, and these fittings doesn't look like they've ever been off. That one's I don't think they've ever been off, and I had a good transmission cooler in Dresden. So maybe this is my Dresden motor, maybe it's not my Dresden motor, but that's not the point. What I'd like to do is I'd like to pull the head off this. Maybe if I find somebody, I'd like to shave a little bit off the head and put it back together, but I'm not 100% sure if I know any good shops around me that are willing to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull this bracket off. We're going to pull this bracket off. We're going to take some of the wiring off. The wiring harness is probably going to come off the entire motor. We're going to take the intake off. We're going to take the coil packs off. We're going to take the spark plug wires out, the spark plugs out, thermostat off, coil pack brackets, all that fun stuff, and hopefully we can take this head off this motor. So let's get going on it.
So we've got pretty far here. We got the cams out, we got the lifter caps off, we got the valve cover off, the intake off, pretty much everything off. Now it's come to the actual head bolts. And I don't have the right socket. These are 12-point sockets, and apparently it takes a 12 mil 12-point. I don't have one of those. So might have to go to town to buy a 12 mil 3/8 drive deep socket. Take out these 10 bolts. But this should be the last thing holding on the head. Can't do it with the wrench, but I'll show you guys here.
See how the head bolts are sunk down into the head? I can put this on it, but I can't turn it. So we need to go buy a 12-point 12 mil socket. But we have the intake on the ground over there, a bucket full of parts here. Don't worry, they'll all be cleaned before they go back in. We have the valve cover, spark plugs, fuel injectors. I'm going to test all these fuel injectors before they go back in, because I do not want to do this and then put crappy fuel injectors back in. And then I have all the cams here. I labeled all the lifters. I took photos, sorry, the caps. I took photos. I took a video and labeled all these in the video. I put timing marks, so this is the top of the cam. And this piece, that's where the gears mesh. So I've taken my due diligence. I've done the marks beforehand. Each one of these caps have a different marking on them. So that way it's going to hopefully go back together pretty good. So far inside the head, I'm not seeing any damage. I'm not seeing any lifters that are looking weird to me. I'm going to give them all a tap test to make sure they're all bounced back. And I'm going to go drive to town and get the 12mm 12-point socket and get this head off so I can finish up this video. They do Loctite these things in there. I don't know why they Loctite them in there. The spark plug wires break off so many times inside Toyotas that I've taken probably 100 of these things out now. Pretty much every road car that I've ever given anybody to drive around me, those spark plug wires break off. But, oh well. So, yeah, let's go to town and get a 12mm 12-point. So I went to town and got the 12mm socket. As you can see, there's a little bit of crap inside there. I should have filmed me taking off the head. It was kind of not a dramatic though, so don't worry about that. But so we're just cleaning up a little bit of carbon. I'm gonna get a honing stone and just go over top of this, make sure the surface is nice and flat. Got a little bit of rust and stuff like that, but I'll clean all this up so it looks new. But one thing I am noticing, I run a lot of downy in my motors, and as you can see, it looks like it's turning to a nice sludge inside the head. So maybe the downy is kind of leading to head gaskets being cooked. As you can see, there's quite a bit of downy inside here. And if you smell it, it actually smells like fabric softener. So I'm going to take this head a little bit more apart and then get a hold of my neighbor and see if he is still wanting to throw this on his milling machine. Shave just a wee bit. Like, look at the downy. But head's off. Motor's all torn right down. Now we can start trying to get people to help us work on this to get this thing back to life and ready to smash some more other Camrys with it, because I need some more motors and I'm trying to figure out what I can do to get more without actually buying more cars. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys back here tomorrow.